Good evening. I am talking today about my voice is a little off today. Been talking too much apparently. Today I am talking about the wellness wheel. If you haven't seen the wheel of wellness or a wellness wheel, however you want to say it, it looks similar to this, but much better than this one. This looks like my 3-year-old did it, but I did it. That's how bad it is. So this describes your system. Many people have a wellness wheel out there. Uh, Dozens. So everything here gets labeled. Usually, your center or whatever someone says your center is will go here. Some people say spirituality. Other people say indivisible self. For example, what we're going to be talking about today. And the spokes are usually like things that hold you together personally. And then the wheel represents other facets, and then so does the space on the outside, like, the world. So keep that image in your mind as we talk about today. Trash, trash can. So I wrote a little spiel the other day, and I'm going to read you what I said spontaneously. And then I did a little deep dive after that. And it doesn't take long at all to go through it. But I just wanted to do some research based on what I said. So you always have to make sure that what you say mm, is what you say, and make sure that it gets backed up. So I first heard the other day about that uh, some research out there has switched out a spirituality core for your wellness, your wheel of wellness, and they put fundamental wholeness or indivisible self or some other nonsense. And before you say it's not nonsense, pay attention. Okay, we're gonna go through it. So when I first heard that, I was like, oh wow, I have some thoughts. Here they are. Let's say you have this guy who is living basically out of his brainstem. Well, pause. For those of you who are new, I read from a screen over here. It's because I keep my notes straight. Let's say we have this guy who is living basically out of his brainstem. From trauma, abuse dating back to childhood. It cannot be closer to the truth that if asked about spirituality, he might say this, that, or the other. But lives none of the peaceful or non self harming belief systems. Spirituality is quite known and experienced from the cortex. And people could say, it takes feelings to feel, so no, spirituality is in the limbic. No help for you. But it does not take into account that your feelings do not give you feeling. Touch a hot stove, for example. Put your finger in a little fire, and we'll see if your feelings gave you that. No, it was an external force that made that happen. It wasn't you. So somebody says, you need to have everything intelligent from your feelings, and that's just not the case. Your cortex is what does the big heat. So, the cortex is the gateway of healthy limbic development. Although we cannot bring spirituality and put it on the stand at like a courtroom, nature testifies nonetheless. And we start feeding fundamental wholeness. We inherently tell our kids to trust strangers, and not doing so is oxymoronic from that give everyone their chance to show you their fundamental holiness. Oh, not holiness. It's, yeah, really, what are you saying? Yes, holisticness. But it's the same thing. If you're saying that your core is fundamental whole, that's what you're saying everybody is. I don't say that. Never gonna say that. Mm. So, yeah, I'm always sleepy. You'll get over that too. I like spirituality at the center because it is more substantial as an anchor than the new culturally forced assumption of wholeness. Even people would say, I don't believe in spirituality. Fundamentally, don't have to see they live spiritual when what they do is spiritual in nature regardless. There are geniuses that say they believe in Jesus. There are geniuses that say they believe in Buddha, etc. But we're not talking about entire cortex development. We're talking whole person, which is the reason why people say, oh, well, if we're talking about the whole person, then the inside of the wheel is the whole person. It's nonsense. We're going to get to the reasons why if you haven't been convinced yet. But we are not talking about people with a perfect wheel. That's the key. So, with that being said, I believe from, well, experiences that there are really great people out there who don't have a full wheel. I think we all know somebody like that. If you don't, I guess you just haven't came across anybody yet. But Nick Vujicic is one. I'm probably not pronouncing his last name right, but I've I've watched him so much. I think the first time I seen him, I was probably 24, not in person, on a video. But if you change the core to something without life forming strength, then the wheel falls apart. Spirituality is life forming. Like the wheel that I like with spirituality in the center, it's I guess I'll pull that. It might be easier for pulling it on the purpose. You get a pen. So for me, it's spirituality is at the core. It's the white part. And self-direction and identity intertwined as two components becoming one. That is the first circle that you see. That spirituality, the little nub, is what you go by. Your self direction comes from what you think is the key of life. And then it's that identity and self direction that explains your spokes. Exercising, physical health, gender identity, culture identity, and so on and so forth. Whatever makes up you, whatever makes up you. And okay, so then out here, there's a few parts. I just didn't draw more circles. But the first circle that touches is what I call the combat team. That is your people who extremely support you, the people that you can tell anything to, and the people that will help you out regardless. No matter what is going on in life, they're there for you. It's it's the people that you let your hair down for. Now, some people can say family. No, no, no. How many medieval kings got their kingdoms taken out from underneath them because they're family? How many of you have been neglected, abused, treated unfairly by family? That's the reason why they're not your combat team. This does not have a label to who is in your combat team. If they are in your combat team, if they're there for you to death, that's your combat team. If you don't have one, you don't have a wheel because the next layer out is your family and friends and those who are in the outer courts or the next room. The next room, you could say, is your family and whatnot. Those people can flip on you. Those people cannot call you back. Those people can disregard everything that you have to say. So if you want your health and self-care and your identity tied to people who aren't really there for you, that's up to you. But you're going to make a really weak wheel if that is the case. because you want a really tight wheel that really puts a lot of pressure. I mean, obviously not enough to break it, but enough pressure for the wheel to make it a nice, strong wheel. And that means your direction and identity needs to be strong. So that needs to be strong. Your spokes need to be strong. And your combat team needs to be strong. Now we get into what if you're missing some spokes? And you can still be an awesome person, like I said. I believe that. Mm. Because, we just have those three aspects that make up how strong you really are. Then you have the rest of the family, and then you have the public out here, the world, the news, all that sort of thing. So, so I say it like this. When your wheel is turning, spirituality has an energy. That energy comes into your identity and your self direction. So you have energy from here. It's like a friction that goes through your spokes. And then it creates that same friction and energy in your combat team. And then from there, the energy keeps getting pushed out to where they can feel it on the outside. And whatever's happening out here doesn't affect this at all. Very strong. So it's that lifeblood that the spirituality is pushing out. Talked about the combat team. So, what is also with your friends is education and your community. Makes sense, naturally. Anybody who acquaintances with you, friends with you, that's all there. I didn't put family, but yeah, family's out there with friends. Because, like I said, just because you're related to somebody doesn't mean they're going to help you. They're going to be there for you. Doesn't mean they even have the capacity to. Your combat team has the capacity to come to your aid. If they don't have a capacity to come to your aid, they're not in your combat team. And even if they want to have that capacity, they're in your combat team because it's a heart posture. If the heart posture is there, good. They're going to do things for you. They're going to help you. So if somebody is triggered by the media out here, that means they have a system that's messed up in the combat team, the spokes, or the energy. More technically, it's probably a crack in the self direction and identity. Because, like I said, even if you have a missing spoke, but you like the well, it's like Nick, who still does amazing things because of that. This energy pushing on the other spokes on the combat team makes it so you can miss a couple of spokes and still be an amazing wheel. Still roll, maybe not exactly the way you're supposed to, but you know what I mean. You function just perfectly fine. just the way God wanted you to focus on is not what you're missing, but what you're doing. This, those three parts are what you're doing. The rest can change. Really can. You can say, my family is my family. To each their own. But I tell you what, I don't have the luxury of running around in my lifetime playing with fire and taking risks that I don't need to. It's You can try to bring your family into your combat team for the rest of your life. If that's how you want to leave the earth, is saying, I was trying to bring my my relatives into my combat team so we can be a real family. You can. You can. I'm not. I'm letting them have their autonomy. My family has that choice themselves. Like I have a choice to show up every day for my family, for my friends, for my combat team. It's a trade-off. If you don't have that trade-off, well, you ain't in my combat team. I need more people in my combat team too. I'm looking for many more people that I can be an amazing person to. Always be there. Chit chat, hang out. Even if they're professionals and I'm a professional, but it seems a little unethical for us to hang out. If we're in each other's combat team, I don't care. You shouldn't either because, like I said, let me see you without a support system. See how you really do. And I need more. I am someone who loves to search for people to bring in. But let's keep moving here. See, if you're triggered by anything outside, it it makes sense if you get triggered by something in here. That makes sense because you're like, wow, something happened. You get in a car, you lose a limb. That makes sense. It's going to take some time between your combat team and your energy and direction. It's gonna take some adjusting, but you can do it. But if something out here starts breaking and it hurts you, it means you must have glued yourself to something that's supposed to fall off and shed like a snake's skin. This is your wheel. Bop, bop, bop. That's it. Anything out here that's influencing you is given too much privilege in your life. So, like I said, it makes sense that you get triggered by something from your combat team, what's around you personally, and then your inside, your spirit, your self drive, your identity. When one of those messes up, it makes sense to impact you for a moment or even a season, but you're going to get back up. You are going to get back up if you work on it. If you work, don't take no for an answer. Get back up, drive. You have a wheel to run. You're going to roll. You can roll it. I don't care if you have two spokes. You can roll. you can do just fine too with two spokes. Okay? Now, naturally, what those two spokes are probably matters. Um, obviously, we're talking more physical aspects. So that, in a nutshell, is a remarkable and sophisticated integration of neuroscience, philosophy, and practical wisdom. We make a few arguments here. The neuroscience argument. The point about someone living out of their brainstem is crucial. And some of these terms I don't know how to pronounce. You can Google them. I can Google it too, but I'm not going to remember how to pronounce it for you guys. Polyvagal theory and trauma research support exactly this. People in chronic survival states, dorsal vagal shutdown, or sympathetic hyperarousal, literally cannot access the cortex capacities needed for spiritual contemplation, meaning of life, meaning making, or self reflection. Spirituality may be known and experienced from cortex, but trauma keeps people locked below that level into the limbic, the I can't pronounce the third one. I don't know why they made that one so long and the other one's not. I'm sure it has something to do with Latin. Everything is Latin. Spirituality may be known and experienced in the cortex, but trauma keeps people locked below that level. So placing spirituality at the core acknowledges something aspirational and directional. A North Star that remains constant even when someone temporarily can't access it due to dysregulation. The anchor problem, another piece of the argument. Fundamental wholeness as a core assumption is structurally weak because it's circular. And here's a quote for it. You are whole because you are fundamentally whole. You are whole because you're fundamentally whole. It's not a play on words. It's not grammatically accurate. Where you are whole, meaning you are who you need to be if your spirit is who it needs to be. Very clean. Very clean, very psychological. Two, it is culturally contingent. As is noted, this is a recent Western psychological construct. Three, it is potentially dangerous. You can be naive with it. Everyone is fundamentally good. If you go back to infants, yes. Infants aren't walking around hanging out with you. Infants and toddlers aren't picking you up from school, or not raising you, or not feeding you. So you say, back then, back when you're an infant and a toddler, you have good components. Yeah, you don't keep them, you have to build on them. Most people don't build on them. Have you ever met a preteen and teenager? They're insanely freaking weird, is what they are. They literally think as teenagers that they're their own core of life. Like if you show a teenager a wellness wheel, they'd look at it and go, me. And you're like, are you insane? Yes. Teenagers, their reasoning is worse than toddlers about, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. I love you, teenagers, but you're freaking silly. I mean, let's see you guys even build a company. Come on, let's be real. The cortex is not even done yet. Until your until your cortex is done, just pretend that you're not done yet. You're not done developing. It's that simple. If your cortex isn't fully mature, stop thinking you know it. You know less than anybody with a good cortex. Everyone with a good cortex can walk circles around you. And four, it lacks transcendence. It references nothing beyond the self. Whereas spiritually, even undefined points to something beyond the individual that provides one an external reference point. Two, cross-cultural recognition. Every culture has spiritual traditions. Three, moral and ethical gravity. Right action flows toward something. And four, life forming strength. Like I said, spirituality, self direction, and identity formation. Self care expressions, your physical body, then your combat team, your intimate relationships, and then work, education, community, family. And then the world engagement on the outer core, which is the wind blowing. It's everything outside. I give my family, I'm a little bit more than in my life. Not much. Because, like I said, you don't know how long you're going to be on this earth. Quit settling for people who aren't there for you. You still be friends with them, still love them. They're your family, your friends, whatnot. Don't let them influence you. So, with the spirit first, that means the energy is flowing outward, which it does. Momentum flows outward. Gaining specifically in manifestation as it moves through concentric circles. When someone is triggered by the news, the outermost component, the disturbance actually originates from a disruption deeper, possibly at the spiritual core. The Nick George example is a perfect illustration. He was born without limbs. He was born without four limbs. Obviously, some broken spokes there. Yet he radiates purpose, joy, and impact. He's a magnificent person, which energizes the entire system when outer components. Oh, I skipped a line. It's because his spiritual formation in the middle that keeps him intact and strong, pushing out that energy against the combat team holding the pressure in. It makes the wheel nice and strong. And it energizes the entire system when the outer components are compromised or missing spokes. Change the core to I'm fundamentally whole. That means you have nothing to work on. That means your wheel isn't actually connected to a nut there, but you're just a wheel sitting on the ground. Congratulations. You're whole. But you ain't moving. You're not doing anything. Because the wagon in the perceived notion that we're in here is heaven. So the spiritual core is connecting you to an eternal future. The wheel collapses if anything but spirituality is in the middle. And that life forming strength creates your self direction, creates your identity. So, your center, the thing that pushes out the original energy, does it survive suffering and maintain coherence? Like a Navy SEAL. Does it provide direction when empirical wholeness is obviously absent? Missing limbs. Does ground ethics beyond personal preference? Does it ground your ethics? If you're born whole and you think that you stay whole your whole existence, that means you have nothing to work on. And then four, it remains stable across cultural and individual variation. Global. I am fundamentally whole. Struggles with all four of those. It's descriptive at best. Descriptive. Aspirational at worst. And very fragile under pressure. Because if you really believe that you have this grandiose perception about yourself, that's going to crumble on any, because you're not. Spirituality, properly understood, not as religion, but as a recognition of a transcendent meaning, purpose, or source, has gravitational pull. It can hold the system together even under extreme stress because it references something beyond the contingencies of the self. The paradox that I'm highlighting. We're removing explicit spirituality to make the model more inclusive or secular may actually make it less robust and more culturally specific to the West, first world countries, and their therapeutic culture that they have. A grandiose ideation about. The atheist scientist, Buddhist monk, and the Christian mystic might all disagree on spiritual specifics, but they recognize the human orientation toward meaning, transcendence, purpose beyond the self. Now, I'm not a Christian mystic, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And, I'm in that group of three. So it makes a group of four there. We recognize the human orientation towards meaning, transcendence, purpose, and something beyond the self. That is more universal than the integrated self, the indivisible self. So the anchor to the spirit is his principle. Spirituality influences your direction and your identity. That influences how strong your spokes are, what your spokes are, and it really pushes them into your combat team. If you don't have a solid person, if you are not a solid person, you don't have a good combat team. It's just there's no hard connection. But if that's solid and this is solid, then that's going to be good. I mean, as long as that's not correct either. But I hope that makes sense. I think it makes sense. I like it. I hope the paper rattling didn't have any negative aspects with the video, but thanks for joining in. Please leave your comments if you have any down below. I am thoroughly invested in hearing from you, especially if you have thought of something very similar and that made a lot of sense to you, or it answers a lot of your questions. If you have questions, yeah, put them below. I'll try to get to them. And yeah, I love discussion. So as long as your feedback is, your questions, as long as anything you put down there is respectful and open to dialogue, I'm going to respond. If it's not open to dialogue, there's no transaction to be made. So thanks for coming anyways, and thanks for your comments, but you're not going to hear from me. With that being said, thanks for coming again, and let me know what you think. Let me know your experiences and how this correlates to how your life is today.